Good morning, Mr. President. I've given you the President's weekly brief. I wanted to suggest we turn to current development number one, having to do with Putin's recent visit to China. Uh, I, uh, I would like to refer you to what the diagnosis that we make in the CIA is, and see if you have any questions as you kind of read along. And if there are questions or puzzlements, please just let me know.
Well, Ray, you've been in this thing for 27 years there, and I trust you or I respect you, but this is the exact opposite of what I thought was going to be happening. China is supposed to be on the ropes. We got tariffs against them. Uh, we sounded the alarm about their interference in the world economy, about their grabbing these islands and everything. We got Japan, Korea, uh, our Korea, South Korea, Philippines. They're all united, be on the watch for China. We Taiwan is more independent now. I don't know what's going to happen with the two China policy, but it's very rocky. And Russia is supposed to not be a factor at all. They're supposed to be on the ropes there with Ukraine and losing and everything. You then send me this memo. I looked at it before, and you make it sound like two against one, and this alliance. How did this happen? If it's happened, what's going on here?
Well,
Don't the
Mr.
Russians know they can't make anything, and the Chinese are in trouble? And you make it sound like these guys are winning.
Well, Mr. President, tectonic changes take a lot of time, but this is sort of the culmination of a process that Putin himself started about 20 years ago. He and she have met over 40 times, some of those virtual, but most of them in person. They are very much together now, and uh, Russia is supporting China vis a vis the Taiwan problem, and China is even more important, supporting Russia in Ukraine. Matter of fact, it took most of us by complete surprise when Putin went up to China before the invasion of Ukraine. He persuaded Xi Jinping to acquiesce or to even support this, which is against their whole core principle of Westphalia, no interference in the affairs of other countries. So that relationship has blossomed now. And what we have is a situation where Putin went to Beijing on Thursday. They had extensive consultations. They issued a statement, a joint statement that just won't quit identifying themselves together as a force to be reckoned with. And the atmospherics of it were reflective of the substance. Matter of fact, even the New York Times today, it talked about this very warm embrace. Uh, there's even a clip that we stole from the New York Times, not stole, but we have it. I'd like to show that because it shows as Putin was leaving, as he was leaving Beijing to go to Harbin, uh, she went with him plainside. And he what he did was, well, why don't you watch it here?
Hey Ray, with all due respect, you call that a warm embrace? And what is it? What I did with Netanyahu? It was much closer, much tighter, and we're fighting like cats and dogs now. I didn't read that into that at all. I mean, the fact is, aren't these countries, Russia and China, they're on the ropes, and we got these new tariffs that we're putting in there. They're not going to be able to get the advanced chips. And what do they got? And Russia can't make anything. What are you doing there? You doing PR for them? What's going on?
Well,
That doesn't look so threatening to me.
Well, Mr. President, that was just an ostentatious display of goodwill. People tell me that people in the Orient, and specifically Xi Jinping, is not given to giving those kinds of embraces. You saw that he took the initiative there. Actually, there's an authenticity to their relationship which should hit home here in Washington. Russia is not on the ropes. Its GDP is going 3-4% a year, whereas the Western Europe, the rest of Europe, is not doing very well at all. And Beijing is doing just fine. And so, what we're trying to get you to understand is that after years of being at loggerheads, Russia against China, it's quite different now. And they are a combination to contend with. The more so since there used to be this triangular relationship, you'll remember, Mr. President. Now it's really kind of two big sides, Russia and China, and the US at the short end of the stick, because most of the world happens to identify with Russia and China, particularly over sensitive issues like Ukraine and like the Middle East.
You know, Ray, do you guys over at the CIA, you ever talk to the people in the Pentagon? You ever talk to people in state? What's going on here? I mean, we just put in a set of these tariffs uh, to put the Chinese economy under some warning that they're going to lose their big market here in the United States, that they're going to be in trouble. They're not going to get the advanced chips. And what has Russia got except this oil, which you can get elsewhere? And why are you singing their praises? What's going on here?
Well, we're saying that there's been a shift in the balance of power, Mr. President. And the U.S. can't work its will around the world the way it used to, and the sooner that people face up to that fact, the better. The New York Times headline betrayed a kind of exceptionalist attitude. What did it say here? Oh, here it is. Xi's warm embrace of Putin means defiance of the West. So the West tells what's possible here. You shouldn't be getting together. And with this attitude, all I'm saying is that the U.S. policy has served to drive them together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's gone in spades now for 2 decades. We just want to make sure you're aware of that. And this most recent visit by Putin to Beijing issued was the occasion for the issuance of an 8,000 word statement, a joint statement. And in that statement, Beijing really identified with all of Russian foreign policy aims to include, here's from the joint statement, Mr. President, this is important. Uh, we condemn the expansion of military alliances, NATO, and we condemn military bridgeheads close to the borders of other nuclear powers, particularly with the advanced deployment of nuclear weapons and their means of delivery. Now, that goes in spades here when we're talking about the kinds of installations that are in Poland and in Romania now. In other words, the US has put missile bases in Romania and Poland, and the Russians can't figure out what kinds of missiles are in there because there are caps on the capsules, so to speak, and they could accommodate ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, anti submarine missiles, and missile defense missiles. So unable to determine what's there puts the Russians at a guessing game. And as they pointed out, just 10 minutes flight time between these installations in Romania and Poland gives them concern. Actually, our next current development goes into this in some detail, Mr. President. Unless you have more questions on this one, let's go to the next one, I would suggest.
Well, let me just throw this in here. I'm talking to a lot of people, and it's pretty clear that this is the alliance of the authoritarian regimes, and we stand for freedom and democracy. and that's what we have to do. They're trying to intimidate us, and we're just going to stick to this policy. And I have to point out to you that we got the majority of people, both Democrats and Republicans in Congress, think I ought to be tougher. And the Russians had better, and Chinese, my God, what are they doing? They're going to get Trump, and he's going to be their worst nightmare. And I think the voters in this country, even that small group of people in Congress, some Democrats who favor a more peaceful, what they call it, or capitulation, they're not going to go for Trump. I'm all they got. And I think not just from an electoral point of view, but the posture of America. This is no time to cave. And I'm really surprised that a guy with your early military background and your years in the CIA are expecting me to become an appeaser to these, what? They're still communist countries, aren't they?
One of them still is, yeah, China.
Oh,
Russia, not so much.
yeah, but always like that. All right, what else you
Well,
got?